Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So we interact with our computers, right? Like all the time. But today, we're going to look at that complex machine sitting on your desk through a completely different lens. By the end of our time together, I promise you're going to see the architecture of your PC in a whole new way.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped and thought about what your computer has in common with your own physical body? It turns out this isn't just some poetic idea. It's honestly the absolute best way to understand the architecture of modern computing. We're going to use this biological metaphor to take what is usually a highly technical subject and break it down into something deeply intuitive.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Anatomy of a PC. 2. Hardware versus software. 3. The processing cycle. 4. Senses and connections. And 5. Power and protection. All right, let's get into it.
Section 1. Anatomy of a PC, the digital organism.
Think about it like this. Just as you have a brain that coordinates your actions, the computer has a CPU, or central processing unit. Your physical organs? They function exactly like the hardware inside the case. Your basic instincts and thought processes map perfectly to the software and firmware. And your eyes, ears, and sense of touch? Those are the peripheral devices gathering data from the outside world. It really is a perfect parallel.
And, just like biological organisms, computers come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes, all adapted for different environments. We have the classic desktop setup, a stationary, highly capable machine that you'll usually find in offices or home studios. Then you have the laptop or notebook, which brilliantly compresses that exact same anatomical structure into a highly portable form factor, letting you take your digital organism on the go.
Beyond just size, we also see these distinct evolutionary branches in PC architecture, designed to fit completely different needs. For decades, the dominant force has been the IBM PC architecture. This is commonly known as the Wintel ecosystem, because it relies on the pairing of the Windows operating system and Intel processors. But standing distinctly apart from that is the Apple Macintosh architecture, relying on macOS. They accomplish the exact same fundamental tasks, but they're built with entirely different internal philosophies.
If we look at the DNA of these machines by checking out operating system market share, you can see just how dominant the Wintel branch is. Windows holds a massive 72.1% majority. The rest of the ecosystem is carved up among Linux at 13.6%, Unix, OS/390, and a few others. It's a pretty fascinating look at how these digital brains populate the globe.
Section 2. Hardware versus software, body and mind.
So the crucial point here is understanding that hardware is completely useless without software and vice versa. Hardware encompasses all the physical, touchable components, the internal parts and those input-output peripherals. Basically, if you can kick it, it's hardware. On the flip side, we have software and firmware. These are the invisible instructions, the boot-up sequences, the applications, and the thought processes that tell the physical components exactly what to do. The firmware acts almost like the subconscious, quietly handling basic boot-up routines, while the system and application software act as the conscious mind doing the real heavy lifting.
Section 3. The processing cycle. How the PC thinks.
Literally every single thing a computer does, from opening a web browser to rendering some massive 3D movie, breaks down into a sequential, four-step journey. First is input, gathering the raw data. Second is process, the CPU crunching that data. Third is storage, holding onto the data temporarily in RAM or permanently on a hard drive. And fourth is output, presenting the final result back to you, the user. Input, process, storage, output. It is the inescapable rhythm of computing.
And these four steps form a continuous feedback loop. Input moves into process and storage, which communicate back and forth, and finally flow into output before feeding right back around. It's exactly like a biological stimulus and response. Think about it. You touch a hot stove, that's the input. Your nervous system processes it, stores the memory that, hey, this hurts, and outputs the physical reaction to pull your hand away.
But how exactly is this information moving around in there? Well, whether a user types a name like Lisa on a keyboard or a printer physically prints that name on a page, the transmission inside the machine happens entirely in binary form. The keyboard converts your physical keystrokes into binary code, just a complex sequence of ones and zeros. Those bits are transmitted to the memory and CPU for processing, sent over a wire, and finally converted back into human-readable characters by the printer. Binary is literally the fundamental, universal language of the machine's nervous system.
Section 4. Senses and connections, interacting with the PC.
So, the primary ways a PC senses the world
are through specific input devices. The alphanumeric keyboard acts as the main data gatherer, utilizing letters, numbers, and control keys like Shift and Alt. Right alongside it is the mouse, serving as a vital spatial translation device. By converting your physical 2D hand movements across a desk into the corresponding motion of a digital cursor on a screen, it completes the interface. Just as our eyes and ears gather physical light and sound waves, keyboards and mice gather physical human intent.
But for those senses to actually communicate with a CPU, they need nerve endings. In a PC, we call these ports. These are the physical interfaces where your peripherals connect. You've got the Universal Serial Bus, or USB, which is everywhere today. You have audio mini plugs, RJ45 network ports for getting online, the older PS2 mini DIN ports for keyboards and mice, and LPT1 ports for printers. What's kinda cool is that these ports are often color-coded to industry-standard colors, making it super easy to identify which digital nerve ending plugs in where.
Section 5. Power and Protection. The PC Lifeblood.
The absolute ultimate life support system for a computer is a UPS, or uninterruptible power supply. Think of it kind of like a digital pacemaker combined with an emergency blood reserve. If the main input power source suddenly fails or spikes, the UPS immediately provides continuous emergency power from its own internal battery. This buys you the critical time needed to save your work and shut the machine down gracefully, protecting your hardware from a devastating electrical shock or a sudden, nasty shutdown.
Let's look at how this scales across different setups. UPS systems come in a few different form factors, depending on the size of the organism they're trying to protect. You have your desktop or standalone units, which are small and perfect for an individual workstation. Then you step up to tower units, which are vertical floor standing models. For really large-scale environments, you have rack-mount designs meant to slide right into server racks, and modular or centralized UPS systems. These are massive, scalable backup systems designed to keep entire server farms alive during a blackout.
And the power flowing through those systems has a highly specific pulse. Standard PC specs require alternating currents somewhere between 85 and 264 volts at 50 or 60 hertz. Add in active power factor correction for efficiency, and you have the precise electrical heartbeat required to keep the machine running safely. So bringing it all together, just like with the human body, understanding your PC's internal anatomy is the vital first step to maintaining its health. When you know how the CPU brain interacts with the memory storage, how the binary signals travel, and how the power systems act as life support, you can optimize its performance, troubleshoot common issues, and really ensure its longevity. This isn't just trivia, guys. This is practical knowledge that directly impacts how effectively you interact with your technology every single day. Which leaves us with a truly fascinating question to ponder. If we've successfully mapped hardware as the physical body and software as the developing mind, well, as artificial intelligence and quantum computing continue to advance, what on earth will the next evolutionary step of this digital organism look like? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I can't wait to explore the future of computing with you all soon. Catch you next time.